for the mathematics strand project, I had chosen second grade, and we are going into algebra. So the SL I had chosen is 2.PFA.1. The students will describe, extend, create, and transfer repeating and increasing patterns limited to addition of whole numbers using various representations. The note-taking device that I had chosen is a graphic organizer. So for this graphic organizer, we will go into what a pattern is, so we have an understanding of what we're even looking at, what we're manipulating, what we're creating, what we're describing. And then we will also be getting some examples. So I will show them examples with like patterns with numbers, patterns with letters, patterns with shapes. For the science integration activity, I had chosen Virginia Science SOL 2.6. The student will investigate and understand that there are different types of weather on Earth. Key ideas include measuring, recording, and interpreting weather data. Allows for identification of weather and patterns. So the students will be giving an activity. There is weather data provided, so it tells them sunny, rainy, and cloudy days. And there's also a little map key, pattern key, and then they have to draw out that weather pattern for me. At the end of this, after they draw out their pattern, they have to tell me how many days were rainy, how many days were sunny, how many days were cloudy. So this just ties into what we have done in math with patterns, and seeing that even, things in science tie into math, that there are patterns with weather. It connects every day, because not only is weather science, but we experience weather every day. But this just really allows for it to be an integration of information that just really allows them to understand and incorporate into other aspects of subjects' lives just every day. It just helps really make things not so black and white. It's not just math, it's not just science. We can combine them, we can separate them, we can do anything we want with them as long as we're interpreting the data. And then the next portion is the math tiered activities. So the group 1 kiddos are my below grade level kids, and we're really going to be hankering down on the being able to see and recognize patterns, to hopefully work on being able to describe them so that we can continue them. So they'll be given manipulatives, so that we're going to get the the shape pattern blocks and an activity sheet. So we will start, I will give them a start of a pattern. They'll use their shapes to match them up, and then they will continue the pattern in the space provided. And then at the bottom of this, they will be creating their own pattern using the shapes. So they get to play around with the shapes a little bit, be able to see how we create patterns. But this is really just a hands-on activity, and it's a very important visual activity for these types of students, so that they can really see and try to get that understanding that the other students might already have. But it really just helps sink the information down for them. And then our next group is our second group, which is our on grade level kiddos. So their activity also involves manipulatives. They will be given counting stars, double-sided counters, and the little counting chips in the MathLink cubes. So their activity sheet is kind of like the one before. They'll be given a pattern, and they'll use those manipulatives to continue them. Now this one's not anything about shapes. The shapes are just a helper. It's still visual, so they'll be given a certain amount, and then they'll see that we have to add another amount to just continue the pattern. But this just really meets what we should be learning, gives them more practice. And then our group 3 kids, which are our gifted or accelerated kiddos, they will be given an activity sheet, and they will also be given a little bit of a manipulative. So they'll be given a hundreds chart and bingo chips, and on their sheet they'll be given a set of numbers. So for the first one, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They'll put their bingo chips on their 100 chart and see that we are increasing every 2. So they'll have to continue the pattern, tell me the continuance of how many spaces I provided, and then tell me how much they have to increase by. So they have multiple examples of that they have to work through, and then at the bottom they'll be able to manipulate the numbers a little bit in their own ways. So they'll be able to use their chips, see what they can increase and continue adding to make their own numbered pattern. And then for our next one, we have assessments. So I have two formative assessments. They do tie in together. They are not the same, but they do tie in together. The first assessment, the students will be given different shaped and colored beads and some yarn. They have to string their own pattern. And they will be given 3 opportunities to do this. They'll be given 3 sets so that they can make 3. They will do that, and then I will give them an activity sheet that goes along with it, just so I can collect it all as a grade. And this is their little activity sheet. So this is where they're describing their own pattern to me, what they did, how many's in it, what colors they used, just a good description of the pattern that they had created themselves. Now the second formative activity, they will be given another activity sheet, but they will also be given one of their classmates' patterns that they had created. So with this, they will draw out their classmates' pattern and continue it. And they will also color it in. And then for the bottom portion, they're going to describe what their classmates' patterns look like, how they continued the pattern, what they recognized. This allows for, so like the first activity, they had to describe how they created their own pattern, like the creation of their own pattern in the description, while the second activity, they were given a pattern and they have to describe how they continued it. What was going on with the pattern? How did we know to put what next? And then for the summative assessment, so the summative assessment, I couldn't find one that was already made. But if this was like to be used right now, I would make one, no problem. The summative assessment is a Kahoot. They will be given a quiz grade for it. I would picture using this moving on. So we went over patterns and we used the examples of shapes and colors and letters and numbers. So the Kahoot would give them a set of shapes, like we'll have a circle, triangle, square, circle, triangle, square, and they'll be given 4 answer choices. And of course, one's going to have the correct continuation of the pattern. But there will be 10 of these questions, and the students have to, complete them. And it's a really, really fun activity. It probably doesn't even feel like a quiz to them because they think it's a game. But these students will be really engaged in participating because they think it's a game. They want to be first. They want to get it right. They're competing with their classmates a little bit. But I'll be able to use the data because every student I'll get a data sheet of what they got right and wrong to not only grade for a summative assessment, but also it gives me a good explanation if I need to go over anything more with my students before I move on to increasing, objects within a pattern to tie in like a little bit of addition within the pattern. But if the students aren't grasping, the simples of, seeing different colors in a pattern, recognizing them, how do we continue them, then I'll have to go back and stress that a little bit more before I can move on to something that's a little more challenging, a little bit more harder. And then it goes into my lesson plan. So the lesson plans I had created was for whole group and small group portion. The first part is going over what patterns are, doing some practice patterns all together. And then they will continue doing some by themselves. I'll walk around, help them out if they need it, ask them questions, get their brains flowing, like talk with me through it. Like, how'd you do it? How do you know this looks like this? And then we'll move on to their activity, which they'll be given a paper. It'll have circles drawn out. I think I have an example of it actually. And they will also be given M&Ms. So the students will be creating their own patterns using M&Ms, and then of course in the little circles they just color in the corresponding M&Ms right here. They'll just color in the corresponding M&Ms, and then we're going to go over, this is where we're really going over how to describe a pattern. So they will practice doing that after they create their pattern with M&Ms. We will, if we have time, go up, share with our friends, show our classmates what we had worked on, and then there's also the concept strand, unpacking it and creating a map that's included in there too. I did make all of these worksheets myself. They are not perfect, but they do the job well, and I think they're pretty good. And then once again, all of the manipulatives that I had listed, they're in the project itself. There's images of them. And yeah, that's my project. And thanks for watching.